please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I'm like in the way.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nice.
Okay, roll call. Commissioner Newland.
Here.
Commissioner Larson.
Here.
Commissioner Barnes.
Here.
Commissioner Stoffren.
Present.
Commissioner West.
Here.
We're also joined by some city council members.
Swanson, here.
The commissioners? Commissioner Rush?
Councilmember.
Councilmember Rush?
Councilmember Rush, yes, sorry.
Councilmember Case?
Here.
Member Holm? Here?
He's gonna be here, he
You
said he
okay?
was.
Councilor Walker? Okay, everybody turn in their claim forms to, everybody turn them all in? You get them all, Kayla? Okay, shut, okay. Okay, B, approval of the agenda. As we briefly mentioned before the meeting, after D1, when we discussed the zoning ordinances, the discussion of the shipping containers with the city council, after that discussion, we are inserting an adjournment motion for the city council members, so they are free to leave at that point. Other than that, does anybody have anything that they would like to change? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion with that one addition.
I'd like to ask the council members if they have a special meeting. For us, if you will, there's not a lot to branch off from here other than our normal. I'm going to also consider this to be our yearly joint meeting as well. So not only will we have letter D and zoning ordinances to talk about whatever, but also how you doing. Well, so, but if there's
Okay, entertain a motion to with that one addition.
Make motion that we approve meeting minutes as changed.
Agenda.
We have a second?
I'll second it.
More discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, agenda approved with that one addition. Okay, C, approval of the meeting minutes. The meeting minutes from our planning commission special meeting dated January 14th, 2026. Everybody had a chance to look them over. Anyone see any changes? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the January 14, 2026 Planning Commission special meeting minutes.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, meeting minutes are approved from the planning commission special meeting dated January 14th, 2026. Okay, that brings us to D1. The reason we're here, new business, the zoning ordinance. Discussion of the shipping containers, the city council. Mr. Lake.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to say, just to start this out, as this is also our joint meeting, thank you. Thank you to everybody on the planning commission for doing what you're doing. We have a lot of new faces here. I don't know, maybe we should even just go around and do a little introductions. You know what I mean? Because most of us know one another, some of us have no clue, you know what I mean? But as we are putting the council together and the planning commission together, Ed, let's start with you.
I'm Ed Stoffren, Planning Commission. I also do election judging, resident in Baldwin for
Tom Brush, City Council, Vice Mayor. It's my 17th and final year. I've been on town board and City Council. Last hurrah for me.
Okay.
Happy wife, happy life.
Bruce West, live over on 100th Street. Wife and I have lived there for almost 4 years now, 3.5 years, whatever. Happy to, we've been in Sherburne County for 30 years, 29 years. Lived in Elk River prior. I'm happy to be here and happy to be on the planning commission.
Alan Walker, city council for a couple years, and I've lived here since 1997.
Just moved here, eh?
Yeah,
New resident.
yeah.
Scott Case, currently the fire chief and city council. I've been on city council, I want to say 4 or 5 years now. Yeah, well, council since November, but it's town board before that. My wife and I raised our kids here. We've been here 26 years in Baldwin. So just looking forward to the day I'm not doing all this stuff. So.
All right, I'm Abby Newland, young buck probably. I'm like, okay. I've lived here for 3 years. I'm a local realtor as well, so I love learning new things about planning commission. But yeah.
I'm Mary Larson. I've been here almost 3 years. Love this community. Very glad to be part of the planning and zoning, and I'm also the volunteer event coordinator. Oh, and park board. I always forget, or park commission. Or board. Yeah, park board. I always forget.
Teresa Barnes. I've been a resident almost 5 years now. Dream home on my lake, so I'm happy. Very happy to be here. Looking forward to seeing where we can grow our city. Yes, I am.
I won't hold that against you.
Well, you have, okay, yes, I am a project engineer for the city of Blaine. So when I mix up Blaine and Baldwin, it's too many B's, just cut me a little grace. and yeah, Mary, because I did it last meeting and I didn't even catch it, so I try hard, but lots of B's out there.
Clarence Matson. Wife and I got married in '94. We moved for the summer on Elk Lake, the northwest corner. Celebrated our first anniversary with a 6-day-old son. Stayed there for the birth of 2 more children after that. And we, 94, our one summer has turned into 22 years. Wait, no, 32 years.
32.
I was gonna say,
I was like, wait.
got a decade there.
I tried to sneak it in. I'm only
At
50.
this age, what's a decade?
Exactly.
Stop your buttons.
So for this, so for the city council members, we have a huge turnover. As you see, everybody's in their first year. I've been on it for, I don't know, Kayla, what have I been here? 6 years, 7, 8, 9, I don't know. But our few discussions we've had as a group, it's been really nice because we have a wide variety of backgrounds. So our discussions that we have been really, really good. High turnover, a lot of it was health related, I believe, which is understandable. We have here in place. Our discussions have been very good. So as the mayor has seen, it's I feel very confident. I love coming here. Discussions, everybody respects everybody, so when we have a discussion, even if we're on opposite sides of an issue, everything goes really well. So I think that we're planning commission here.
And as a liaison, you know me, everybody knows. Don't have to go too far that way, but I just got to say, as a reiteration to the council and what Clarence had said, I mean, all you guys are here for the right reasons. It's good input, good discussions, good things are happening. I mean, you guys are literally, you guys are the first stop to anybody that's Baldwin. Well, past Dan, I guess. But at any rate, and you're doing a phenomenal job at this point in time. So I think, as Clarence had tried to do earlier, Dan, let's turn it over to you, and where are we at in zoning?
All right, so the reason the council's here is to discuss again this kind of ongoing issue with storage containers. So when the city adopted its zoning ordinance in April of '22, Sherburne County's regulations came in place, which set up certain allowances both for permanent and temporary structure. Planning Commission reviewed this as part of some zoning ordinance changes in end of '23 and into '24. The discussion at that point was no change to the regulations that had been in place before. With the turnover that happened on the Planning Commission, we can blame some of the new people for wanting to reopen this can of worms and revisit it again and kind of reconsider what's appropriate for Baldwin. So the current regulations that are in place allow use of shipping containers as well as semi-trailers as accessory structures on residential properties. They can be permanent on a residential unplatted lot parcel that's greater than or it's 10 acres or larger in area. They're prohibited on any residential property that is either platted or it's less than 10 acres in area. As a temporary use, you can use one for a shipping container or semi-trailer for a period of 1 month within a 12-month period. If there's a construction project on the property, which we've interpreted as having an active building permit, you can have that on the property for 3 consecutive months. If this is on a platted lot, it's basically subject to parking requirements, meaning the container or the semi-trailer would have to be on the driveway in that temporary situation. So what the Planning Commission kind of started talking about this second time around is recognizing that these are in widespread use around the city. You can't drive anywhere without seeing a handful of them. We do have 4 current code enforcement cases that are open on these. And so it is, when it came up the first time, the council said, okay, we're not going to act on these until after the Planning Commission's had a chance to review and weigh in. Then it came up again now to kind of review it. So these are all kind of paused while this discussion is happening. So the question before the Planning Commission that ultimately leads to the City Council is there a situation or a scenario envisioned where use of a shipping container or semi-trailer on a residential property would be compatible with the desired character of the area? You know, people want them, but does it cause other issues? So that pertains really to whether the ordinance would be changed to allow them on platted lots or on parcels less than 10 acres in area. And then once that question's kind of covered, then are there standards that needs to go with allowance for this? Limit on the number, should there be increased setbacks or requirements? You know, they can't be in the front yard of the property. Does there need to be any screening involved or any kind of aesthetic considerations added? So we put together basically a draft ordinance to kind of lead through this discussion between the Planning Commission and City Council based on what the Planning Commission had looked at your last meeting. One of the things the Planning Commission discussed that any change to the ordinance should include prohibiting use of semi-trailers for accessory building purposes. Basically, having them on axles is a different situation than having just a shipping container being used as a structure. To accomplish that, one thing we want to do is put in a definition of what a shipping container is to distinguish it from the semi-trailers, and then look at revised standards for permanent and temporary use. For the permanent use, a discussion item would be limit on the number of shipping containers per lot, the location within the lot, recommending that it have to be in a side or rear yard. Planning Commission discussed potential exterior finish requirements. The main direction was going that it needed to be painted a single earth tone color with no logos, text, or anything visible, and then anything else that the Planning Commission would want to consider. From a public safety standpoint, having the container anchored to a foundation so that in the event of a tornado or something, it's not going flying. That type of situation. And then the big question, of course, is looking at the minimum platted lot area or minimum parcel area requirements. The one thing to note is based on what Sherburne County had structured their subdivision ordinance as, anytime you subdivide a property, it's platted. So there are an unusual number of large platted lots within the city of Baldwin that kind of affect that. Although those typically, where'd the maps go? Those end up being the parcels that are typically in subdivisions as well. That's in the wrong spot, that's why. So we included the 2 maps as part of the memo. The first one, you know, all the parcels that are zoned R1 district, there's 7,420 of them. The map shows in the light green the parcels that are 10 acres in area or larger. There's 471 of those, so 6.3%. Of those 471, just kind of looking at the map, it appears most of those would be unplatted parcels, so they would be eligible for shipping containers under the current regulation. So the discussion the Planning Commission had at the last meeting is, should that 10-acre threshold be lowered? So if you just drop it to parcels that are 5 acres in area or larger, it increases up to 3,528 platted and unplatted parcels. or just under half of the R1 district lots and parcels within the city. Again, those would be shown in green, so you can see most of the highlighted platted subdivisions would be excluded from allowance under that scenario. We didn't do it on the map, but just showing, if you looked at parcels and lots larger than 2.5 acres, so a conforming middle or a conforming lot, that's almost 83% of all the lots. So you're excluding any lot that's smaller than 2.5 acres, doesn't comply with the zoning ordinance, so you should be somewhat limited in how you can use that property, but it basically opens it to almost every lot within the city. So those are really kind of the parameters that, the Planning Commission discussed last time. They wanted to kind of see the visual on the map as to the extent that if the threshold was lowered from the 10 acres, how much of the city would potentially be eligible for these containers and in what type of scenario.
On your legend, what is the OS? Bottom, second one up from the bottom.
Shoreland Overlay District.
So at 5 acres, drop that, if that would be considered, literally almost half. 7% of properties would have them.
Yep, everything in green except for the yellow, not the yellow lots, right?
So, is it good?
I can, yeah. With discussion, the planning commission had discussion, quite extensive discussion on this. We have talked about it. We have, as Mr. Licht had said, a couple of issues going on here now with neighbors who love to have them and want to keep them, and neighbors who hate them and want to get rid of them, and they should not be here at all. Hence why discussion. And so I think as we move forward here, I think the Planning Commission, obviously they did want to see this as portrayed. I think this is good information. But at this point in time, and I've said this to the Planning Commission too, as the liaison, when I'm listening to them talk about things and things like that, whatever, it's not my meeting, I'm the liaison. So I want to hear them, I don't want to steer them, right? And I've said that to you guys on several occasions, right? And so this meeting here now is a possibility for us to say, however it is that we feel about this without direction put towards it. Sorry, which is the reason. So if you don't, I'd like to go around because you guys know what you guys talked about and thought. And I guess I'd like to start with the council, start with Tom here and say, what do you think about the experience we've had so far and what it should look like?
I think it should remain the same as a county, 10 acres. It's complaint driven. So, I mean, I just think we should just leave it at 10. If it's complaint driven, we're not on a witch hunt looking for these, or we don't have the manpower to go out and, like take pictures like of the head walls we had years ago. So I would recommend that, and no one's gonna paint the containers, and it's pretty alarming when you have nearly 50%. That could be potential of for me, I don't want it to be Baldwin Cargo City. So I think just leave it as is, as a county has it. And then if it's complaint driven, then they move them. We send them a letter, try to work with the homeowner.
Oh, I mean, if the planning commissioners have any questions for council members, whatever, if you have any questions for Tom?
Just real quick to insert the comment that the mayor made on the chart is that was one of the reasons that we wanted to come back and rediscuss this, was to see the percent. If it would be changed to 5, if it went up to 25%, it's like, 48%, whether or not that changes people's mind. We wanted to have the actual facts. So when you are stating what you stated about not being a cargo, it's kind of like stepping back to when we discussed the prior planning commission, planning and zoning, we discussed having the people buying property and putting up storage units. We didn't want to have 3, 4, 5 different storage units in Baldwin where it's like, oh, come to Baldwin, you can store anything you want. We got 3 or 4 complexes of storage units. Well, if we allow it at 5 and 47% of homes can have them, pretty soon it is. Cargo City. So, but we wanted numbers too, so when we discuss this at this meeting, we're actually looking at numbers, not just looking at opinions.
Chair, if I may just ask one thing too, is, I mean, people who moved in here, you know, have covenants. I know we don't enforce the covenants, but as, you know, somebody who moves in there, you're on a 2.5 acre lot, popping up. You know, that's alarming too, but, I just think it needs to be complaint driven and at that point, have them removed. My 2 cents. As is.
Mr. Chair, at the same time, are we gonna talk about semi-trailers? The opinions, I mean, we talked about the cargo boxes, containers. We're also talking last time about semi-trailers, where they're, you know, so we're gonna ask the council that now or later, or I just don't wanna miss that opportunity with each council person.
No, and if we want to back up to Tom and
I would just, like I said, you know, I don't think we need to stir up the hornet's nest. We put these ordinances in place. The county had them. It worked. It's all complaint driven.
well, and I think some of what the ask is, or the question is with the semi-trailers, they're allowed now on 10 acres. So would you, part of the discussion has been not allow semi-trailers at all as storage units. If somebody's a truck driver, if somebody has a semi-trailer, that's one thing, that's what I'm talking about. But actually to put.
How many do we have? Because I mean, I haven't heard any complaints driven about semi-trailers.
Question, do we?
I don't know the numbers on
None
that.
of the complaints are based on semi-trailers.
It's just, it's in the ordinance now. The question is, should that be changed, taken out, altered, left the same?
I would just leave it the same.
Yeah, there's a lot of containers in this area. I mean, just a rough estimate, I'd say there's, I'd say 900 of them, just in Baldwin. You know, and a lot of them, you really gotta look for them, because they do hide them behind their houses. You know, but if they're not complaining, I would have to say just alone. Let them keep their containers.
So then, would you think the ordinance should be changed, or the ordinance should be left?
Well, I think 5 acres should be plenty myself, you know. 'Cause there's more 5 acre lots around than there is 10 acre lots.
And then, in order to do that, then we'd be talking about changing the ordinance.
Yeah.
Reduce it to 5.
Yeah, I think so, because there's a lot of 5 acre lots that already have them. Some have 2 even.
I'm gonna take up a little time here because couple questions, and I'll address the semi-trailers first. If it's a working semi-trailer and I have no issues with that. Got plenty, people need to store them, overnight or that kind of thing. But if you get more than 1 or 2 on there and they're collecting weeds and junk and things get thrown under there, they become an eyesore and a hazard, and you just don't know what's in them. If there is, from the public safety point of view, you don't know what's in them, and that's concerns there. The other thing is, and I don't know if anybody's seen these, but people are taking the storage containers and making them living quarters and putting 2, 3, 4 of them together and making living quarters. Has the Planning Commission talked about that in this whole process?
Briefly.
Yeah, I'm thinking a little bit we have, under the fact that if they're gonna make living quarters out of them, that's gonna fall under the building code.
Yeah, I just want, and how does, just to clarify in the ordinance that does not, either does or does not pertain to that part. If they're, I didn't know, so I was just trying to clarify that. Personally, I'm opposed to having them on anything under 10 acres. I have 6 acres, so I could put one back there. I'd be the only lot in my neighborhood that would be able to do it because I'm the only one over 5 acres. I don't think, I could probably hide it well enough, but I don't think my neighbors would really appreciate coming out and seeing containers sitting around in my yard. 5 acres may seem like a lot, but if there isn't a tree cover, if there isn't stuff blocking it, it is there, and then you'll have some upset neighbors because you put that out there. And then it falls back on the city to enforce that, because if we drop it to 5 acres, we're gonna end up with a lot more complaints, I guarantee you. Because there will be people that put them out that they're not complaining now, because there are some out there, but it just hasn't been something pushed. But the next neighbor comes in, they push it, and we're going to have the manpower to enforce that under the 10 acres. At the 5 acre level. I'm not, in a public safety thing, is you got this big 40-foot container sitting in a yard and we're at a house fire, and it just causes more problems. I'm opposed to changing the ordinance under the 10 acres myself, but.
I have a different opinion. And I think proper zoning, it could be done tastefully, such as one, limited to the 20-foot, no 40-footers. Depending on maybe above 10 acres, maybe 48, but if we were gonna say we were gonna go down, hypothetically, go down to 2.5 acre, then in that 2 to 5, I would limit it to 20-footers. I would require that they be painted to match the house, the like buildings, or even possibly, people do hang siding on them and fur them out and side them. People incorporate them as part of a building and add on to it and do some really creative stuff out there. So then all of a sudden the box becomes kind of a substrate part of the structure. I would think it makes sense that it's behind the house, and that there's, side setbacks met, and that the vegetation around it has to be mowed, maintained, and that it needs to be set on some kind of hard surface, whether it's a compacted gravel, granite, or it's on concrete, or on some kind of stable ground or whatever. They're out there. There's a lot of them that are already on 2.5 acre lots. And if you want to start enforcing it, those ordinances you have now, even if it's complaint driven, either way, we're gonna have both sides of it angry at us, no matter what we do. But I think that if, like I said, the first time this was sent to the planning commission, I had thrown that out at the council meeting that, well, this is what I think if we crafted something and made, standards that it had to be so. And if to answer the semi-trailer thing, you'll see a lot of times too, where someone will have taken a van body off of a chassis and dropped that on the ground. That I would oppose. The structural integrity of them, the roof, it's not there. Them things are just made to rot, and then you just got I would want something that has some aesthetic requirements to go with it, such as improvements on that box. But I look at that box as a piece of material that goes to something else. So if it were me, I honestly, you can look on the internet and find amazing creative things that are done with these containers, just using it as a material. A container standing alone makes a very cheap, affordable place to store your stuff and secure it. That's why when I say, maximum 20-foot container on a 2.5 acre lot, like for example, there's smaller containers that are 8, 9, and 10 foot. Now, what's the difference between that 8, 9, and 10 foot container? And they come with a door and a window on them. You can buy them brand new, never shipped, don't even have a shipper's label, and they're kind of a beige color. You can get them off the auction at Hiller, and they, go for $1,500 to $2,000, but it's pretty sturdy, stout material versus what's the difference from that 8-footer, little cute box, than some piece of plastic thing somebody ordered off of Wayfair and threw out there in the same spot. So, and, the other thing too, I mean, if you have landscape around it, maintain vegetation and things, it starts to fit in and blend in. I could see where Scott's saying, yes, if you're in a development that's out in a wide open field or whatever. Well, yeah, a lot of them started out in a wide open field, but look at the ones that have been there for 15, 20 years. It's not a wide open field anymore. Either they planted trees or volunteer trees have come up and grow, and now you don't see what you used to see in the past. And there, most of these windbreak pine tree rows were planted in the late 50s and 60s. The reason why there's the trees along 169 is because the sand blew so bad it was plugging the road up. So they planted those trees on the center and on the west side for the prevailing wind. So most of these windrows of pine, Norways you see out here, they're not that old. And things of, if you see a stand of oaks, well, that's something where whoever had got that 80-acre parcel, they rubbed this and did that, and they left that, and that's where it is. Now that's all dying of oak wilt because of all the development that went and cutting at the wrong time of the year and not managing that, and it's always constantly changing. But anyways, I think I got my 2 cents across that it could be done, but it would have to have strict standards of what it's going to look like, where it's going to be placed, how things are going to be maintained.
Yeah, I would concur, as a matter of fact. Well, and one thing that I have said is, we just approved a development with 17 lots over on 305th and 136th, yes. Right, and the question is if we're driving through those 17 lots and everyone has Maersk on it or Hyundai or whatever, does this look like the shipyard? I think I've said this before too. I arrived home to my house one evening, whatever, and there was Maersk, 40-foot container or whatever in the yard. And I questioned that. That was an ugly thing for me to come home to. I'll be quite honest with you. The one caveat to that is my south line is actually Livonia. So that was in Livonia. So we would have had quite a battle there. There's still a line where some of this could happen, and we I guess I have also said too that, and Mr. Licht has said as well, they will always remain an affordable option for storage and those kind of things. So will always be. If we changed whatever ordinance, whatever rules, whatever regulations we change, we're going to have to enforce it. To me, I'm thinking, what does that look like? Complaint driven? Absolutely. We're not going to be on a witch hunt going on. Exist already, but when they come in, what do? I think that things like 20-foot container instead of a 40, that is a much more manageable thing to think about. If we had it, if that was a 20-foot container, say, in there, we can all go, regardless of the lot size, go to Marv's or Menards, whatnot. We can put up a 12 by 20-foot shed, whatever. We don't need a building permit. Anything to do that, we can just do that. So if the frame of that started as a container and there was some criteria around it so it doesn't look like a container when it's all set, then to me there would be no difference between it started out as a container and turned it into a shed looking thing. So to me, when we think about what could possibly happen, this would be a way, if those were implemented, a way for us also to deal with the complaints that say, all right, we have an alternative for you. Here's what you can do with that container that's already on your plate. Shorten it up, dress it up, whatever this criteria, bring it into conformance. That also helps because, again, too, with finite budgets, these kind of things, expensive endeavor to go after. many of them would not be sought after if you had to spend that expense. So I would say, in my opinion, if they were smaller, if they were dressed up, if there was a certain amount of criteria that could be wrapped around them, I would not necessarily have a problem with containers. Literally, as long as they don't invest. And I think at one time Dan had brought a picture, and I don't know if you still have that here, but this goes to what Mr. Holm was also saying too, was I believe something that was in Otsego, which started out life as several containers, turned into a structure that doesn't look like containers anymore. You know, and so, and if somebody were gonna do that, if the ordinance pointed towards, now, if you wanted something larger like that, now it's gonna fall under a building permit. How we would blend the two of those. Ordinance point at the code if you wanted to.
Would one be like under a storage use? And then if it's gonna be an occupied use, then a whole line of stringent requirements?
I think we would add a provision that says if it's just a shipping container, it can't be occupied except for storage purposes. And then we would basically interpret the code that if you sided it up and made it look like a building, then we're gonna treat it like an accessory structure. Cause you're probably gonna need a building permit to do that, so.
We did have someone come through about 3 years ago, a lady, to answer your question. Okay, she came through about 3 years ago, and she wanted to build a house out by Lake with shipping containers. And she looked into it, and then when she found out the heating, some of the issues, she decided not to, but it came in as a building permit she was looking for. So we addressed it one time on that issue. As far as the planning and zoning, your opinions, what all of you think, if you'd like to express as well. What we did discuss at the last meeting too is if we keep them where they're at, it's much easier to change it at a later date and come down from 10 to 5 or 5 to 2.5 or something. If we come down to 5 or 2.5 and all of a sudden they just explode, and we say we have absolutely no control of this, we're not really Baldwin, we're shipping container Minnesota, how do we go back? Well, all these people that did it legally, we have no grounds to get rid of them. I know I've seen pictures of people who can turn them into the most gorgeous places, but people play the Powerball because they want to win that too. So when people put them up to say, well, you have to create this when you put it up, the standards we would have to try to uphold when people are putting them in. I mean, what percent of those people are actually going to be doing that?
Mr. Chair, I was just wanted to ask the mayor clarification. You talked about the UV opposed to those smaller ones. You never define what lot size you were talking about.
Oh, I think down to 2.5 acres.
Down 2.5. I just
And I
wanted
say
to
that
clarify.
because literally somebody can put up a shed without a container, you know, any kind of a shed up without a
I just wanted to understand where you're going.
If they wanted to start with a container as the frame, you know, and then make it not look like a shed.
I know, what if I were, say, Old Hickory Building, right? You buy it, it's on skids, the guy comes and drops it, but I'm gonna start my own company to compete with Old Hickory. But here's how I'm gonna design mine. I'm gonna make mine look just like a container. But it's a shed and it's not a container. And there it is. What are you gonna do?
Well, and I was, to go along with you, I've been around where they've built pole buildings. Some of them look like a metal shed. I'm sorry, they do. And then another person's looks like a really nice house. It's what they do with it. It's how they landscape. It's all the other little nuances that you were talking about, Jeff, that can make them blend in better.
Well, and that's where the protective covenants is of a subdivision that a developer establishes at the beginning by, you know, the square footage that's gonna be finished to start, so that gets the size of the home, which will kind of influence the price of the home. Then, usually, a lot of them didn't want pole buildings, so they had to be stick-framed accessory buildings, and they limited what the square footage was
Yep.
gonna be. But guess what happens? people go ahead and get a permit. At the time when we were with Sherburne County, they don't enforce covenants, they don't look at the covenants, and they go issue a permit. Now somebody went ahead and put that pole building up, and now all the neighbors that have all abided by it call the developer or whoever succeeded the developer afterwards and screams at them and says, why did you allow that to go in there? And it was, well, I did, it just popped up one day because, you know, the local zoning authority issued a permit and there it's up. So I guess if you were thinking about having one, go ahead and have one. But two people earlier in the first phase of the development, they put up really nice stick frame because they were abiding by the covenants. It's now how is the covenants is enforced? It's enforced by the successors, the fee holders of each of the parcels in that subdivision, and it's a civil matter, which they're gonna have to take their neighbor to court. But that's where you get, you know, they have architectural committees for these, that you're supposed to set up for these covenants and stuff that are, so, you know, you keep somebody from painting their house pink. Because the 26 of us in the subdivision, 25 of us vote, we don't want our proxy, we don't want pink houses. So, there's a balance between what's up to the common interest that each subdivision has, or each little kind of enclave or neighborhood has with each other, whether they're part of an actual subdivision, or let's use that Elk Lake North Loop there. It's a hodgepodge. It was a lakeshore development, and then later the inner part, there was a few lots that were parceled off in the 70s, and then now we got the stuff that went in after 2010 that go around 9 and around that. They are not one subdivision, but they are a kind of a neighborhood, and they have common interest in, hey, we want to protect our values and our aesthetics, but they don't have a document or a body or a thing. I mean, if they wanted to establish their own, but how does it enforce? It's not. Where are you going to stop? I mean, like I said, I could build that shed that looks just like a container, just to make a point. You know?
Mayor? Yeah, so two questions here. One, who's gonna monitor if they paint these? No one's gonna paint these things.
The
Very
permitting
few.
process to even have it on the site.
Yeah, but if you lower it, you're gonna have way more. And then number two is, we became a city, and we knew with this city, you know, it's different from the township. You're gonna have, you know, there's gonna be enforcement. And like I said, it's all been complaint driven the 17 years I've been on town board and the city council. So I just think to leave it as is. And also, I've said this numerous of times, for the developers, builders who are coming in here, we got head walls that people put in. I think there should be a cheat sheet that should be given to the developer, passed on to the builder, that says, hey, you can't have head walls, 33 feet. You got to educate these homeowners. They come out there, well, this guy over here did this, so I'm going to go do it. And I think that needs to be passed on. And I said that numerous of times, but I don't think no one's going to paint these things. I just think you should just leave it as is.
Mr. Mayor, one thing I was going to mention, I forgot to mention too, is they make pools out of these containers. So you can just have this 20-foot little, and it's sawed off and at a certain height or whatever, and it's a whole contained unit, and write a check and drop it right over there, and then have your electrician come and hook it up for you, then have the fire department come and fill it up for you, and all of a sudden now you've got a container pool in your backyard. And another thing they use for grain bin rings. That's pretty neat. Is that tacky? Is that, I'm just asking, or is it neat looking? I don't know.
Tacky.
Mr. Mayor, I agree with Councilmember Rush. The enforcement thing is, I have a real problem with that, because if we get another council that decides it's not complaint driven, then it's enforcement, then we're going to have to enforce all these rules and that kind of thing. And we lower that, we're going to get a ton more containers, because right now people don't, as a rule, don't put them on their property if they find out they can't be under 10 acres.
Commissioner Barnes?
So I'm just listening to everything and trying to do a little bit of I've had a couple different thoughts going round and round. One of the comments that was made earlier is there's already like 900 of these in the city. If we go back to the number that Dan provided us, there's only 471 lots that are 10 acres or more. So we already have 500 of these that are out of compliance, and if we leave it at 10 acres, okay, it's complaint driven, but we have 500 lots that are out of compliance, and we already have 4 that are under complaint that we have to go enforce. And if we're questioning enforcement, if we have 500 of them already out there that are out of compliance, that's a lot of enforcement. I heard another comment saying, if we reduce it to 5 or reduce it to 2.5 and we get a whole bunch of them blowing up, we can't go back up. And while I agree with that, part of me looks at that number that says, if you go back to the other one, I think that's where the 400, yeah, the 471. But if we drop it to the 5, I guess my question for Mr. Licht is, how many of those, of the 4 complaints, are they on 5 acres or greater, or are they on smaller lots? Do you know of those 4 current complaints?
I would guess at least 3 of them are on less than 5.
Okay, thank you. So we still have to enforce those. That was one of the questions I was running through my head is with the current complaints that are going on. My current opinion, and I've kind of gone back and forth on both sides. I see where leaving it makes sense because, yeah, I don't want Containerville. But if we're already double the amount of allowables, we're already kind of there. And that, to me, adds to our enforcement requirement right now. Whereas if we go down to 5, we still have enforcement that we're going to have to do, but maybe that makes some of these others, and as somebody else said, 5 gives us a lot of options for hiding, gives us a little more room. We can make the setbacks, we could make additional potential requirements. Again, that leads to enforcement, but if it's complaint-based, the enforcement is marginalized if it's complaint-based. And I guess that's something the council would have to decide is, do we go out and winch hunt, or do we stay complaint-based, and how do we look at it from there? If we go down to the 2.5, that relieves a lot of things, but again, then that then, to me, means we're adding a lot to city staff to go out and chase everything, because then we're gonna wanna really nail down the zoning and manage and modify and make sure these are being done. So is there a middle ground in there somewhere, I guess is where I'm trying to circle back to, and I'm not sure if it's there or not. It's just the circle I'm running around. Sorry.
Mr. Chair,
Hang on, Mr. Holm had his hand up.
You were right on my thought where I was gonna go next, which is if we reduce it and make some standards, I believe that getting people to come in compliance is gonna be an easier battle than going out and having people fully remove it. And you talk about it just being complaint driven. Once we set the precedent that we're gonna take action and we're gonna make one of them move it out of there because there's a one complainer that's very persistent about one particular property in that list of 4. Once that's set in motion and the precedent set, and somebody hears and reads about it and they're sick of their neighbors, complaints are gonna go up once they see we're gonna do something about it. So Teresa's observation there is very relevant to our constraints and what we can do. And so that's why I say I would think it'd be easier to have we put it out there that, okay, it's changed, but there's 1, you need a permit for it. 2, there's some standards and compliance. Everybody that has one in existence, you're gonna need to come and get a permit for it, and you're gonna need to learn what the compliance is and how you're gonna make adjustments to yours to meet our new ordinance, and give them a couple of years to get that ironed out. And then after that, try our best to do marginal enforcement instead of getting into a pitchfork and whatever you wanna call it, meetings where there's 60 people in here ready to hang us. Because we've been to those meetings.
Been there before.
So I have a question real quick or there's 900 of them, roughly.
Yeah.
Have you seen a lot, you've obviously seen a lot of them?
But yeah, I just took a drive around, just within a 1 mile of radius of my place, there's 15 of them.
So how many of them look like they've just been dumped on the property and they've,
I
how
would-
many of them have siding, how many have roofs, how many have had?
There was a
glass?
couple of them, I had to take a double look at them because they had them all dressed up. It
So-
looked like they'd went down to Menards and bought one and stuck it in there. They had them painted up nice.
5%, 25?
But they had a couple of them were set up, they were 40 footers and yeah, they were right on the road and they got canvas tops on them, so they got storage on both sides and the parking area underneath it. 40 footers.
Oh, I know of one that's got 2 40-footers on each side with the whole canopy over. It's not in Baldwin, but you can see it.
There's one like that in
Can't
Baldwin.
enforce that.
So, otherwise, the other ones that I seen were the smaller ones and, they were back. I mean, you had to look for them.
Case?
So, not to dispute your math, but you're just throwing 900 out there. I'm sorry, you don't have actual numbers on how many lots actually have. That's over 12% of the lots in Baldwin would have a container on, based on 7420 parcels. And I just don't see every 10 lots that I see a container. I think we're thinking this is 900. I dispute, I'm sorry, Al, I dispute that it's 900, 900 of them. We have, if you went out in a mile and you had 15 of them and you had that still doesn't get us to 900. Sorry.
Let's say there was 300, it's still.
But you're just throwing numbers out. So if you have an accurate number, I would, okay, fine, but we don't have an accurate number. We're just throwing a number out there.
Mr. Mayor? I mean, we got ordinances here. So to me, this is just kicking it down the road. I mean, we have ordinances that say 10 acres or more. It's complaint driven. Now, to your point, yes, if neighbors get pissed off and start calling, yeah, we'll address them, but some neighbors may be fine with them and it's not, complaint driven. Yeah, but I think we're just kicking the issue down the road. Because if you lower it to 5 and it pops up, like you said, then we're gonna have a bigger problem. And then I look at it for, I don't want this becoming Baldwin be known as Cargo City. I'll just throw it out there. I mean, take me off the council, but as a homeowner,
We're already known as Pole Barn City in our business district.
yeah,
That's historic.
nothing that's been there for many, many years.
I think the two ends, if you look at it, there's compliance issues either way. If we say, leave it as is with 10, it's complaint driven. If we say, let's go to 2.5, but you have to doll it up and you have to do this and you have to plant this, that, once again, there's a lot to enforce. So there's whatever we do, there's a lot of enforcement. So there's no easy way to say, well, even like meeting in the middle, saying, well, let's just go with 5 and require, it's like, but no matter what we do, we have an issue. So it's kind of like, what do we want Baldwin to look like? I agree with you, shipping container central. I agree with you if people doll them up and they say they care and you get the person who doesn't drop the one that says Mercs or whatever and you go, okay, that's been sitting there for 3 years. I thought they had to have it dolled up in 2 months. Isn't that what the permit said? We have to go out and enforce it. So we're gonna end up enforcing a lot. It's all complaint driven. So what do we want Baldwin to look like? I mean, we want it to look nice. If they all doll them up, if they do what they're supposed to, that will look nice. It'll look like a shed. When we compare it to the shed that we ordered from Menards, well, those look like sheds. They don't look like a shipping container. So we're not comparing apples to apples. We're comparing a shipping container to a shed. So if we want that shipping container like a shed, it's like we have to be strong with our enforcement if we're going to change it from 10 and start allowing them. So we're in for it either way, but it's going to all be complaint driven. It's just like, what do we want? Right at this point, what do we want to do? Do we want to make a drastic change and drop it? How far do we want to drop it? Or do we want to leave it as is and say, let's leave it as is, continue with all the other things that maybe are more important, and we can always come back to this in a year or two.
And there's also a lot of stuff that's just being stored outside. Doesn't have a shed. that it makes its own blight to look at. I mean, I don't know what the deal is there, but guy's got a dock. I'm ready to park my boat under it, you know, on a stormy day or whatever. I'm just missing the canopy. It's got his old dock set up and off of County Road 9 there. What's that about? That's kind of weird, you know? But it's his property and I don't live next to him and I don't bother him, but it's strange. And I got a neighbor that has the back of his lot. The whole tree row is full of, he's got a fish house there. He's got a boat that he doesn't use anymore. He's got a jet ski in a trailer he hasn't used for 15 years, you know, and
Second.
Hmm?
Cleanup day, May 2nd.
yeah, and he's got, you know, and he built a pole building and he built a fence between there and the house. And so from the road, you drive by and go, that's a sharp place. But from my side, when I go for a walk on my property, you go, junkyard back there, you know, and yeah, I could make a complaint and we could get some compliance or whatever, but you know, I planted some pine trees. Now, I don't have to look at his blight. He doesn't get to look at the lake across the field anymore. So, and them trees are now 20 feet tall. Can't see through anymore. Sorry, guy.
Well, I mean, and that is just it. One man's junk is another man's treasure. I mean, it is, right? And when we went through the incorporation process, that was the biggest thing. People wanted it to be rural. And I also think being kept rural is, let me do what I want on my own property. It's my property. You know what I mean? Here's part of this rural character. And so, to think that, my biggest fear is if we leave it the way it is, whatever, we haven't addressed any bit of what our conformance standards are gonna be and or, you know, what it is really coming at us with. And if we can come up with some kind of criteria, because we're gonna get it, the guy's gonna come in and say, I've had this here for 20 years. Never said anything before.
Grandfathering.
Right, yep, you know, we're gonna hear that word a lot, right, you know, and then the other part of that too is that if there really are, whether it's 900 or 300 or whatever number is out there, you know, every other lot or 25% or whatever we've got now, I mean, we really only have 4 complaints. So that says to me that those that are out there, you know what I mean, aren't bothering the other neighbors enough anyways at this point to generate the complaints. We're always gonna have feuds and we're always.
Well, and I will just say that feud is motivated, and it's stated in a sheriff's report what the motivation is even about. It's a witch hunt, a persecution of the individual because of their occupation. And so anything and everything that house was out of compliance, this neighbor has been persistent and has been using the city's staff and resources to persecute the next door neighbor. And so
Happens in every city.
I don't want to get into
But I'm saying.
I understand,
that-
Jeff, but we shouldn't get into
Scott,
it.
I didn't say the name, I didn't say exactly what it is, but what I'm saying is that we have a situation here that, well, you were just talking about compliance or whatever, it's gonna get pushed down our throat, it's gonna happen, we're gonna have to have it removed, and once we demonstrate that they can be removed, then the complaints are going to.
And quite possibly, yes. You know, and in like my situation, they removed the Maersk from my neighborhood, let's call it that, from the other township, right? But then that revealed one of the ugliest looking barn buildings that I think you could ever have next to you anyway, right? But we were just used to that because it had already been there, you know? And so my whole point is I think we have to have some criteria around all of them, because if they're not having complaints, but the complaints suddenly go up from a change that we made, I think, myself personally, I think we ought to have an option. Whether it's a permit, whether it's a building permit, well, you can't have a 40-foot anymore, but you're still allowed a 20-foot, or you have to side it, whatever, and make it look like the house, you know what I mean, or make it look not like that kind of thing. At least it's an option for them. They don't want to do that, and if they don't do that, then it's out there.
Go ahead.
Okay, my turn. Been thinking about it for the last couple of weeks. I'm on the fence, bluntly. I put together a pro list and a con list. One thing is, they look like temporary structures. If they're out in the yard, they look temporary. I feel bad for, let's say Battlebrook 2. They're putting in houses right now. These are $700,000 houses. Okay, and they have a ring of trees around them, but looking across at your neighbors, there's no trees yet. So how would I feel, or how would you feel if you put together a $700,000 house and you're looking at 5 different containers that throughout your neighborhood down your street? So it's an appearance issue. It's a temporary structure issue. I've been in my spot for 22 years. After living there 2 years, I put together a 60 by 30 pole barn. So I had the space. So to allow people, one of these things is they're inexpensive storage. So for the people that we have the standards where we were, people followed them, they built the garages, they built the pole barns, they invested. I think today you could probably spend $50,000 or $70,000 putting together a nice pole barn. How fair is it to me if John gets to come in and just throw in a $3,000 container? So I would feel that would be a problem with me. And I think that it's going to create some resentment within the city. One of my concerns are if we do allow it, there are safety concerns, there are meeting building codes. Some of these, just this week, since the past meeting, we had one pop up here on 45 and 300. And I'm not sure if they're full 10 feet from the house, but I would think that there's a fire safety. I mean, when I next to my pole barn, I put another shed, and I had to have the 10-foot distance according to and that's out of safety and respect for the fire crew. How are they going to put a fire out if they have a structure that's too close to them? Okay, so we have to consider the building codes and the safety codes. On the pro side, yes, it's an expensive storage. Yes, it can reduce yard clutter. Although sometimes with those type of people, they're just going to get more crap anyway. One of the pros is, if we allow it to go down in size, we will have less compliance enforcement problems because more people will be allowed to do it. I do see a problem with grandfathering. I think one of the things, then there's a problem with how many do you allow as far as the quantity. I think some of that's addressed in our proposed changes. I talked a bit about the expensive homes that are in cornfields that have no blockage. But I think part of what we have to do is when we make this change or when we decide on what we want to do, we have to make sure the community knows about it. Because technically, I was at the point where I was thinking of getting one, and then my neighbor was thinking of getting one as well. And he asked me, he's like, well, what's the rule? So I went and found out that we can't do it. He ended up putting, you guys are aware of this, he ended up putting a 12 by 20 Menards Jeep tin building up. So, I mean, he bought the bullet for the short term, but I'm sure he'd love to have a container. But does that put him in the spot of, hey, I wanted to have one and I can't have one? But within 1,000 feet of my house, I have 3. One is a current code enforcement on 142nd and 9. One is hidden between 2 pole barns behind a shed, and then there's another one that's hidden behind a row of trees on 9. So I mean, I know that they're popping up. So my concern is we need to tell people that if we're not going to allow it, we need to tell them. Because my neighbor was ready to go out and buy one and just put it there. He was smart enough to ask me first. But and with what happened on 300 and 45. They're going to show up. If we don't tell people what the rules are, they're just going to show up. And then at that point, then we have to enforce it. But they've already put the money into it, so they're not going to be very happy about it. So, that's my input on it.
I think the biggest question is right now we have 6.3% on 10 acres or more. Now we're gonna, if we reduce it to 5, we're gonna go nearly 50% eligible lots in Baldwin. Potentially half the city could have cargo containers. I just want to throw out those numbers.
Then you're going to have the other from 47 to 82%, you're gonna have that, people that are in the 2.5 to 5 that are complaining about, well, if they get one, why can't I?
Yeah, and I do agree with you, the communication. Newsletter, Baldwin accounts, and then educating developers and builders and homeowners of what, not just the cargo containers, we also got head walls too. You know, that there was like Jeff mentioned at that one meeting back in the day. Yes, so I mean, we got ordinances and we gotta draw the line in the sand. This is- I'm done.
Circle back on my previous point, my point in bringing up that little persecution was that that's not an aesthetic issue. Talking about why is the complaint, it wasn't because of aesthetics, it was because it's a personal vendetta. That's what I was trying to get at that one. But I'll come back to it when it comes back.
How many noise complaints do
Just a handful again.
I know the noise is a bigger thing because it's like with noise, you are disrupting people's sleep. That this kind of thing, if you're not complying, it's just a building. It's not affecting people's sleep. It won't affect their jobs. It doesn't have any effect there. So I know if it was a noise thing, it's like trying to come to an agreement is very important because you're disturbing people. Something that's ugly, it's like that's hideous and I don't like it. But you're not really affecting people as far as you're ruining their life. There may be petty fights, there may be petty things going on. I think the enforcement to me is the big thing. Because either way, we have to enforce. Back this complaint driven. I'm 100% against changing it. I don't think that personally. That's where I'm at, and that's where I'll always be at, just because I don't want shipping containers to pop up. And to change it to comply with people, because we have so many people that already do it. They've done that with speed limits. With 55, they changed to 60. People then do 70. They changed to 70. People do 80. So people are going to do what they want. That's the point of me bringing that up. So whatever we do, people are still, if they want one, they're going to do it. They can know it's wrong. I'm going to put it here. Until someone complains, then we're going to have to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Boom, boom, boom. You get a speeding ticket, no big deal. You get another one, and then all of a sudden you get that third one, and they say, now your license will be suspended. People suddenly go, oop, I'm going to stop doing it. We have warning, and then now we're going to send someone out there, cop or whomever. As long as we have a system in place for the enforcement. It may take a few years before people realize that we mean business, but what do we want it to look like? What do we want Baldwin to look like? I guess that's what comes down to whatever we're going to do. What do we want Baldwin to look like? So.
I'm ready to see a shipping container on every lot on Elk Lake. If we keep dropping it. You know, well, why can't I? It's under 2.5. You just allowed the 2.5. Why can't I have one on my lot on Elk Lake? No. We just go down that road, so.
Setbacks.
Huh?
We put setbacks in there.
Well,
They're not gonna meet
again, we gotta
setbacks.
enforce all this stuff. It's all this enforcement, and that's my concern, is the big enforcement issues.
I'm gonna give some context. Here's some things here for everyone. Why did we take over planning and zoning? Because the one size fits all approach of the county zoning, we asked them to do special things. Can we have a special district for Baldwin? Nope, we can't do it, can't do it. And what was happening was the influence along from the townships along the Mississippi, the level of restriction that they were wanting to have. What do I see Baldwin as? I see Baldwin as a lot of people came here because they wanted less government, less regulation. When you talk about noise ordinances, that's a tough one to craft because you're going to end up having, like the enforcement side of it, it's going to get misused. It's that one size fits all. It's going to hurt people the other way, other than, you're going to address this issue, but now it's going to create, 3, 4 more down the line that was unintended consequences of putting it in. And the fact that the enforcement is difficult and the interpretation gets misused and abused. So it takes so long to get around to get my point. I lose where I was going to go, and I got to think about it for a minute and come back. So when I got it, I'm sorry. So we desire to do our own planning and zoning and make these decisions, but I found in all my years here, the most encounters I had with residents was they didn't want burdensome regulation. A lot of people are about the individual property rights and wanting to do things and stuff. And then, Dan, I want to touch on this. That's where I was gonna go. So zoning starts from public health, safety, and welfare.
Correct?
Tell me how having a container on my 2.5 acre lot, say I have a 2.5 acre lot. How is my container there affecting public health, safety, and welfare? That we need to, because that's where the authority to the original zoning, I mean, what it was started out in poop in the street in New York City and people dumping garbage out of their windows. That's where it started. So how do we get to now, all of a sudden, we're regulating aesthetics?
That's exactly correct. Zoning starts at that basic level. And what you're dealing with from that standpoint is the bulk of structures on a lot and their placement on the lot. So separation from other structures, separation from streets, preservation of view corridors, et cetera. It transitions then into somewhat aesthetics, and when you start talking about number of accessory structures, size of accessory structures, what those accessory structures look like. And then that, from a zoning standpoint, you're really dealing primarily under 200 square feet because anything over then requires building permit. You're going to get into code issues from that standpoint to protect public health, safety, and welfare. This is purely, it's an aesthetic decision all the way. Councilmember Holm is right that Baldwin took over planning and zoning to be able to have this discussion and decide what's correct for Baldwin. This has been a tough nut to crack every time it's come up, that there isn't necessarily a true consensus on which way to go with it.
I'm just gonna be quick. Again, I think it boils down to the numbers. I'm a numbers guy. You're gonna go from 6.3% to up to nearly 50%. And out of the complaints, we have 3. So that, I mean, that to me, leave it as is.
I got a question for you, and I'm sorry, I haven't, do you have, I missed and I haven't had a chance to look at this. Have you proposed any changes to like far as for the 10 acres and up? Is there any standards for that, far as painting them or not having? Because now you say you would like to leave it as it is. Would you like to see that for the 10 acres and up, that they not have China shipping or whatever on them, or they're bright orange, or?
Would
you like regulation there? Would you like
I don't think no one's gonna paint these, period. If you have it 5 acres or 10.
Well, you have the ordinance, you have them in there, you can.
40-foot container. Yeah, I mean, who's gonna babysit that? And
Well, if you're being told it's gonna have to be removed if you don't comply, and all you gotta do is get a bucket and a paintbrush, and the city goes away.
I don't think no one's gonna paint them, to answer your question.
So you don't propose that they take the current 10 acres and make some
Is that in the
requirements?
lot to paint them, in the current 10
It's on
acres?
the table. You know, if you're
not-
changing the ordinance,
It's not in the current, it's not in the current ordinance?
no, it's not in the current ordinance.
I just say, don't change anything, don't stir it. I don't think if you have 2.5 acres, 10 acres, and it blows up, no one's gonna paint these things. You may have a few people may order the special color, but no one's gonna paint these things.
They're trying to save money by buying a container. They're not gonna spend more money painting it and putting on trim and doing all that, so it doesn't look like a container. They're buying the container to save money. That's why I would do it.
I'm not putting anyone on the spot at all, but if anyone has not spoke up or has anything they'd like to say, please feel free, because we have a few of us who spoke quite a bit and we know kind of where we're at, so we can keep speaking up. It's like, it can be the triangle of talking, it's not getting us anywhere. Ed, you had the floor for a while, so that was perfect. If anybody else, you have anything?
Yep, Mr. Chair, the planning commission members know that, my opinion from the past is, I agree with our chair. I don't want to see it, I do not want to see it go to 5 acres or 2.5. No way in the world. we've got an enforcement issue now. I can see, if we start going to 5 acres, 2.5, and so we're gonna bring all these 100, 200, 500, 900, whatever it is, into, let's say, the fact that now they're in compliance because it's 2.5 or less, or whatever you're gonna do. But even if you put some stipulations on about painting, putting a roof on, putting some siding on, things like that, okay, now they're gonna need a building permit to do that, yes. Because, John Q. Public, go out there and start putting a few 2x4s on and slap some siding on it, maybe, put a little paint here or there possibly, but I even made a comment to Dan about, okay, you put a time period on if you're gonna put some stipulations on, because they can go slap a little bit of paint on and now they think they're good for another year, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, whatever it is. I don't want cargo world, container world, in Baldwin. I don't think other people do. Sure, we've only had 4 complaints, okay? But I think you start going down to 5 acres or 2.5, I think that's gonna cause enforcement issues. Keep it at where it is at 10 acres. Are you gonna put some stipulations on to try to bring some of the ones that are on the 10 acre and above into compliance? We've discussed that, at the planning commission level, whether or not any stipulations are gonna be put on that. If you do, it's gonna become an enforcement issue. On all of them that are on, that are in non-compliance right now.
Mr. Newland, can I ask you a profession-related question? Have you had anyone you brought out to a house that has?
I have not. So that's why I'm like, what are we talking about? Like, I mean, I don't think there's 900. I mean, if we're dropping it to 5, to 50%, it's like someone's going to start a new business and start selling shipping containers to people of Baldwin. I agree with the 10 acres. I think it's fine. And again, with the ordinance, maybe we have a couple things like maybe painting them, but I personally haven't, no. So, I mean, it sounds like the 4 complaints that we have are all under 5 acres, right? So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if we dropped it to 5 anyways.
So I have a question for you, Mayor. Since
I'm a realtor.
Okay, that's what I figured.
so we,
I got a question for you.
we technically here, we always, if you're not here, we discuss it. And if we come up with something, it comes to you and you discuss it. And then it's either what we did is finalized or there's changes made. What do you want to leave this meeting, when we're done with this point? It just says discussion. So do you want us to make a motion as a planning and zoning, or do you want us to make a motion as a group, or just discuss it and then anything we've talked about? If we say no change, then there's nothing Dan has to edit. We're just gonna say, we voted no change, it's gonna go to you. It's gonna be approved at one of your meetings, city council meeting, still?
You guys have more work to do on it, whatever that is gonna be. I guess what I'm trying to get out, council members, tell me if it's something different, but you now have heard, the planning commission has now heard the opinions of the council. Right? Take that for whatever fits into what you believe the ordinance should either be changed to or not changed from or added to or whatever. Again, the enforcement is gonna become an issue. I hate to keep going on that because now basically if we just changed nothing and left it the way it is, now when the complaint comes on the 2.5 acre lot or the 5 acre lot, it's gotta go. That's the only option. You know what I mean? And so with that, I would say we wouldn't care on that 5 acre lot or that 2.5 acre lot if they went and bought a Menards shed and put that up. Okay? So the structure, roughly the 20 foot by 8 foot, 160 square feet, up to 200, we can do whatever on the lot, whatever, without a building permit, right? These kind of things, so the shed can be there. So I guess the question is what I want to hear from you guys, literally, what would be the difference of a shipping container that has to be made to look like a shed? If that's the way they want to start out. Because I think what that would do, or the shed. Because I think if the shipping container is absolutely hidden behind the facade of everything, and it looks like 160 square foot or a 200 square foot shed, we're not gonna get any complaints. And everybody is going to look to that to be, well, Ed just put up a new shed. Who cares, right? And so, and now leaving it as a container, maybe I was unclear before, but leaving it as a container, even painted the color, I don't think I would be up for that. If there was some criteria that surrounded it all, whatever, that said, you can start with a container if that's what you want, but it best not look like a container. And then here we go, that's what it is. And what that also does, for me anyways, what that also does for me is says now when the people that have these containers already, we wouldn't care if it looked like a shed. We wouldn't care if it looked like a pole building. You know what I mean? If they wanted to put up a pole building. So if they would give them an option, it's just easier, we give them an option, all right, you can remodel it to look like this. Else could do as well. If we change nothing, absolutely nothing, and don't look at that, it's gotta go. It's now we're gonna hear grandfathered, and now we're gonna hear it's been here 20 years. And now we're gonna hear about the neighborhood feuds, whatnot, because that happens a lot. You know, two neighbors start feuding about something, it doesn't matter what it is or whatever, you know, and it's really a civil matter, you know what I mean, but they really wanna haul the city into it, whatever. Get involved in this and clear this up with a neighbor. Attorney, whatever. All that, right? So at any rate, it gives options for those that are there. My big struggle is the shed. You know, they can have a shed on their place if they thought they wanted to spend the extra money, one for the container and two for, you know, siding it, whatever that would be. That's up to them. You know what I mean? I'm gonna look at that and say, well, it's $3,000 for the container. $5,000 for the siding and the roof or the whatever, and I'm gonna do the work, whatever. Da, 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 da. Well, why don't I just buy a few extra studs, whatnot, build it that way, and I don't have the container. I think some people, it's gonna make them look at whatever that's gonna be. Some of that would flush itself out. That's so with that, take that information, whatever that is, blend it into what you guys, you know, believe the ordinance should be, or what it should look like, or the changes that should be made. Then, yes, it will then come back to the council. And we would approve, disapprove.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So, and Mayor. So, you know, just on my notes here, you know, you have 3 council members willing to consider changes. And they've provided kind of direction as the parameters that they would support. I think that's enough information for us to take back, revise the ordinance language that you have, or that is here tonight. We can bring that back, that and the planning commission can react yes or no to that, to move it to the council, to let them finally decide. So once you see that language, then the planning commission can make its decision whether you support that change or not.
Is this appropriate to ask? Can we get the 4 addresses that are the complaints are? Because I would like to drive by them, and if it's literally sitting right there in the front yard and it's hideous, it's like, well, that's kind of a duh. Or if a lot of them are hidden behind, if someone does take the time, like you said, most people won't paint it, but if someone puts one on a 2.8 acre lot and they paint it and they put some siding on it, it's illegal. No one complains because it looks like a shed. So what I'm wondering is if those 4 are there and you drive by and you go, I would complain, and I don't even live in this area because it's just a terrible spot. But if 2 of them are tucked way in the back, it's like, okay, see, well, now we're actually gauging. It's like those are actually kind of hidden and people are still complaining. So I would like to drive by those 4 and see what the reason for the complaint was, if it's obvious or if it's not. So if we can get that, I would like those addresses. But if that's...
No, Mr. Chair, you can have that. The council reviews all the complaints at open meetings, so.
So Kayla could email them to us? Kayla. Thank you, Kayla, for doing a good job.
Again,
Alrighty. Anybody else on the council side?
Where I stand.
I just want the planning commission to give us what they think the ordinance should be and we'll debate it.
Righty. With that, and we discussed this earlier, with that, if we're done with this issue, Planning Commission still has more to do yet tonight. Their meeting will on go, but I would entertain a motion to adjourn the council portion. So moved. A second.
Second, yeah.
Moving and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. We are adjourned at 8:25.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice meeting you.
There was a joint requirement.
Sure.
You guys had to come in one time anyway?
Be at 7:20.
That's what-
Let us know how that works.
Right?
Clarence,
Well, you know.
do you wanna get into this or just hold it till the next meeting? It's already 8:30. That's fine.
And now everyone can kind of absorb what it is.
Yeah.
Because you really see it.
Special.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next regular.
Okay, good. We could even touch on it there, depending on what else you have.
So we've got about
Is the-
7 pages of this and
Okay.
it'd probably take an hour maybe to go through and we've got
There was 7
a couple
cars.
other, we'll have the accessory building thing back and then we've got an application.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna-
Let's do that.
Those addresses, I just like to see
Yeah.
And I
the
said,
deals, because
Okay,
I agree.
now we'll continue on with the planning and zoning. Once again, thank you to all of you for coming. We appreciate that.
See you later, Scooter.
Okay, E, old business, we have none. F, the comprehensive plan update. Mr. Licht and the mayor and myself were just talking. The fact that it's 8:30, with everything that we just discussed, to kind of think it over, and then continue on with the comprehensive plan in 2 weeks, seems like it makes more sense than trying to rush 10 or 15 minute discussion and just cut it off for break. So if you're all fine with that, we'll just,
We need to make a motion to postpone that for next meeting.
yes, if you can just.
I'd like make a motion that we postpone item number F for the next meeting.
Second?
I'll second.
Second. Commissioner Doolin, second that. Mr. Stoffern made a motion to push F1 to the next meeting. Commissioner Newland seconded it. More discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we'll push that off. Okay, now G, City Council Liaison Update.
We kind of had it, didn't we? Really, that, there's not a lot that has necessarily happened since the last meeting. We are working on a few things. This, big part of the discussion was to come and plan this with you guys, and we've done, mission accomplished. Thank you. That worked very well. And thank you for, all that you guys are doing, because you guys really are the face of Baldwin to the people that come in and want to try and do anything. You guys really are going to be the people that they're going to see. Thank you for what you do. I'm sure I can think of more, but I wasn't,
Infrastructure committee.
infrastructure committee. Yes, hey, thank you.
Good thing we keep them around.
Right? Yep, so, the infrastructure committee sent a motion and a request to the council to have the updates that are necessary for this building to bring it up to code, and compliance, whatever, at least to try and find some numbers. So what we discussed at the last last council meeting, whatever, was that we don't believe, the council doesn't believe that that would necessarily be enough information necessarily for the infrastructure committee, because it really doesn't answer the question. You know what I mean? If we were to stay in this building, whatever, just bringing up to compliance is not going to end the fire hall and all of that, whatever, is not necessarily going to make it a usable building for us for 20 years. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna get it together with the fire department and the gals here. We can look at this. Mr. Holm actually had introduced some building plans, if you will, for additions to this building, modifications to this. Like take the meeting room here and turn it into the first, or put it in the first bay of the maintenance department, add on to this building, move some walls in here so the gals have a little more room in here and more privacy and safety and these kind of things. Well, anyway, a couple of quasi things, whatever, and then what we would do is we would ask, once we have some kind of an idea of what that would be, then what we would do is we would ask some engineers, go out for an RFP, if you will, and not for a couple of architects, if you will. What does this look like? You know what I mean? And then obviously choose which one we would like to go with. Brunton is one that did is doing a new building here. They would obviously have the ability to, give a bid like. Anyways, and then we can come in and we can have some kind of a 5 walkthroughs, if they're gonna give us a number on what their proposal is gonna cost us to achieve, whatever. And then choose one, have them go with that. Might take several weeks, a month, several months. I'm not sure how this is gonna work. You know what I mean? We know going into this, it's not gonna answer every question we know about this building. But what would it take to say, forget a new building, we're not doing a new building. What's it gonna take to update this campus? And what does some kind of a number look like? So that's what we're on. That's what we're gonna bring back to the answers to those questions with numbers of X amount to do this to what we believe is true. Obviously, there's always gonna be some moving parts to this, because when we find the 28 poles out there that are rotted off, whatever, in the bottom, now we're gonna be tearing walls. You know what I mean? It's remodeling.
That's remodeling for you.
I think we can probably put some kind of a number to that. Between some proposals that Mr. Holman made and some discussions we have with that, I think we can come up with something that would at least be entertainable by all. And then numbers towards that. Largest thing. It was good. Any questions for me?
Yes, on the text today that went out to Baldwin, Rush is saying last year, Baldwin says the planning commission and park committee are accepting applications. Is the application for his spot, or is there an opening? His spot isn't open yet.
Okay.
It's for the park commit advisors, not for his spot on the council.
No, isn't he on the?
He would be an election.
He's the liaison. To the park.
Okay, that's my, okay. Okay, I thought he was-
Lester Kriesel is resigning.
Okay.
That's why there's gonna be an opening.
That's
I mean,
right.
if not, that was gonna be upcoming or is one of the.
Well, we
One
have
other
3.
person, I believe,
Two
is going to
resignings.
or is about to or thinking about
Yeah.
it.
So
So anyway, so
That's what I
On the park, on the park board?
Yes,
But they have some alternates that can
correct.
help fill in,
To-
and then
to
might
fill
be
in.
other.
I think there's gonna be more exiting than they have alternates for.
Correct.
Right? So,
Okay.
anyway.
I will say this, though, we have less vacancies on our committees than the city. They're constantly advertising, not filling.
And so, well, and you see both on these advertising, you'll see them in the paper. Words with one stone.
Yep.
You know what I mean? We have openings on both, so we'd like to fill them, so.
I love those texts that Baldwin goes out for stuff that are just.
You know, and when we had the deal with the school board with the referendum and things like that, with the group that we were succeeded in getting out of here, I asked them, how did you hear about it? Because it came up fast. So this is the wave of the future, is texting.
Speaking of,
I shouldn't acknowledge it's his meeting.
speaking of openings, Mr. Chair. Speaking of openings and stuff, we have an election this year. 2 council seats that are up, where the first term were 2 years so that we can get the stagger.
That's right.
So Tom and I are up, and Tom and I are both looking to exit. So just to keep that in mind, being involved and knowing what's going on, become a good base of candidates. That you should, I encourage people to run. This is the 3rd time I've been on this body. I was on for a term for 3 years, and I said, okay, new blood. And then 3 years later, I got asked, you should probably come back or whatever. So I came back, and then I was there for 3 years, and what did I do? I said, all right, when somebody else, Brian came back, and then you had that vacancy, nation or whatever, and then we made the push for the incorporation. Council was just to help get us on the right foot and set the tone about scale of government and our levy, our budgets and everything. And by the end of, by the time sign-up time comes around, I feel I'm probably gonna be at a point where I'm satisfied, but I'm putting it out there that I'm most likely planning on not running for another term. And Tom has said that, I shouldn't speak for him, but he said it in many places. So, and I just want to just let you all know that Jay, where'd you start out here, Baldwin? What was the first thing you were involved with? Besides coming to that recall of the annual meeting and having good questions in the front row.
Yeah, no, definitely. The roads and budgeting and we got.
But you were on a committee early on, and then you decided you should run for the town board. Took out Lester Kriesel, by the way.
I wondered if you were gonna say that. Yes, I
Because if you know him, he's a peach of a guy, but
did. 95 years old.
Any other questions for the mayor? Okay, let's move on to commissioner update. We'll go around offering.
So tonight we started the discussion. What is our next steps on this discussion? Is that going to be for the next meeting? We'll put that on the agenda for next meeting, okay. I think I kind of hit it on it earlier as far as what my thoughts and concerns were. Communication with the people in a town of what they're allowed to do and keeping people from investing into it and then being told they can't have it. I think that's my biggest thing right now.
Mr. West?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks to the mayor and Jeff, thank you for coming tonight. Thought it was a great discussion on containers. And the planning commission will take it from all the thoughts that you guys have and discuss it. Just a reminder, I will not be here in 2 weeks. Here,
That's right.
whatever the number is, but
Enjoy your.
yeah.
Commissioner Newland?
Yeah, I don't really have anything. I liked everyone's input today. It was kind of nice to see where everyone came from, and people have lived here longer than I have, so I am curious to see where those 4 houses that have containers are, because again, don't notice them. Yeah.
Larson?
I just have one thing to add is we are going to have an Easter egg hunt. Parks is going to do that with me and Michaela so far. So if anybody wants to volunteer, we'd love to have you. Or if anybody knows where I can get a bunny costume, that would even be appreciated. I have a volunteer that'll wear it. I just don't have the costume.
And the Easter egg hunt's going to be where, Commissioner?
It's going to be at Young Park.
At Young Park, okay. Maybe you said that
On
in
March
this, but-
21st.
Okay,
Yeah. Bring your kids and grandkids.
awesome.
Commissioner Barnes, do you have anything?
No, I echo what everybody else has said. I appreciate the discussion and the ability to share our opinions and as you said earlier in the meeting, respect each other. I think I'm in the same boat as Commissioner Stoffren said earlier. I'm on the fence. The line that keeps going, I don't want to make an ordinance that we don't enforce, I mean, so it's, where is that happy middle ground of we have to enforce everything or we don't enforce everything? And I see both sides to that too. There is something to be said for if I have a 5-acre property or a 10-acre property, I should be able to do a lot with it. But those of us in Elk Lake who have half acres, no, I mean, we can't. but where do you, how do you craft, I guess this is where I'm gonna rely on Mr. Licht and craft us the ordinance written the right way to cover a lot of those bases, and I'm not quite sure where that lies just yet, but I look forward to our discussion next week, or 2 weeks, sorry.
It's a lot bigger, but it's kind of saying that when we had a discussion a while back on the variances, that a variance, when that lady was standing up and she wanted to do that with her property and she came to tears, but it was a want. And so you can't approve it, and it's so hard to tell somebody no when they want to do some beautiful place to raise their kids. You have to say no. Variance has to be not going to, and that's really hard, but this is the same thing when we do it.
Exactly.
Do it right the first time. So if you have to tweak it, it might be minor, but don't just, let's push it down the road and we'll discuss it later, because.
I think we can come to a good wording, it's just, we'll get there, we'll get there.
The only thing I have is, in that text as well, it did mention that we have a position open. Since it just went out, has there anyone expressed any interest in the opening on planning and zoning?
I did have one phone call today to clarify the text message on what it was for.
Okay.
And specify if it was for planning or park, or if he was going to do both.
Okay.
But I did get one. I did send it to the paper. It will not go in until next Thursday, because the cutoff for this week would have been Monday before noon.
Okay.
We didn't have it done. So next Thursday will be the first week, and Jay approved 2 weeks, so it'll run for the next 2 weeks. And the deadline to apply is, what did I put, March 16th? Ad. It is posted on the website.
It was
on the
March
homepage,
something.
in the news and
So, we have a March 11th and a March 25th, and the position starts in April, correct? So if we have must apply by the 16th, kind of hoping on the 11th, we could have the people come in and interview. So
you
then.
can still do that.
Okay, because we could interview on the 11th in our special, and then whether we make a decision there or the 25th, we could make the decision. And then that person would be notified, and then they could attend our next one, which would be April 8th.
You guys only have one. One doesn't make a big dent
Correct.
in your longer to pick somebody, that's gonna be okay. The park committee is on that line where you guys were last year. And they might not even have a quorum coming up. We have alternates, but
My wife might call you about the park. She's kind of interested in joining the park.
tell her to
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
but if it ends on the 16th, we couldn't interview on the 11th.
Correct, right.
Okay, so we'd have to interview on the 25th and then pick someone that night for starting on the,
Then that's what we'll see with the applications.
Right.
Is it too late to change that date? I guess, it doesn't really matter. If we do have it on the 20, well, we don't want to really have the interview process on the 25th, because if that's a public and we have public hearings, we don't want to be interviewing people. We want to interview them in a special. So if we would have to push it back to April 8th, then they would just start the 22nd.
yes,
Okay.
I think.
Both
you
things
can
on the
still
25th.
interview.
Okay,
Last time you guys had 6, that took up an entire meeting.
do that. Let's,
I'll
Okay.
let you know how many.
okay, we'll talk about it in 2 weeks, see where we're at then. Okay, perfect, thank you. That's all I have. Okay, sorry, kind of went on there. That brings us to city staff update. Gentlemen, I forgot to introduce at the beginning of the meeting, Mr. Licht.
Fortunately, I think everyone knows who I am.
Everybody knows.
Yeah, at least I'm not called a mushroom. Country Pup Kennels has a interim use permit amendment on the next agenda to expand their kennel, business. And then continued discussion of the accessory buildings and also the comp plan policies.
And I always forget how to address you, Dan, but I have a question about Country Pup Kennels, okay? Because a lot of us, I don't know if everybody here is a dog owner, but I go to Country. So does that mean I abstain from voting what they're asking for?
Mr. Chair, as long as you're not an owner and wouldn't benefit from their, it's like if there's a gas station in town and they come in for an expansion, just because you buy gas there doesn't mean you should exclude yourself.
I just wanted to be upfront.
It's usually, the threshold is really if you're gonna benefit financially from the decision.
Other than they do a good job.
If they offer you a discount, then I'd turn that down.
There you go.
You don't know, he would never offer a discount.
Well, thank you for addressing that.
Yeah.
I had that one time a few years ago, and someone came up before the meeting and said, I need to abstain vote tonight because they had a vested interest. So thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
Clarify it. Okay, anyone else have anything for Mr. Licht? Okay, J, miscellaneous information and communications, notes 1 through 4 below, if you look at those. That brings us to K. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned, 8:46.